What's up, poker players? Hope you guys are out there crushing it on the tables. Here is the graph from the last 30,000 hands. Been doing pretty well after recovering from that big downslope we had a few months back. Haven't been playing as much, but looking to get back on the tables here shortly and putting out some more videos too. Let's jump right into the action from some of the last sessions that we got into. Here's a quick little session from last night where we played almost 2 hours. Didn't put in crazy high volume. I don't think we did any more than 12 tabling last night, but we were up over one buy-in, 113 big blinds, but managed a measly cent. 1 cent. Big winning session for us. First hand we're going to take a look at is Ace-King suited, playing from the big blind at the 10 NL table. We get an open from under the gun, a little bit less than 3x. Not a ton of information on Elvis 1403. Pretty solid numbers over the 86 hands that we have against this player. And we, of course, are going to be 3-betting here with the Ace-King suited. Make it $1.05, a little bit more than 3.5x. And we get a call, 215 in the pot before the flop. And we have 888 left in the effective stack. Flop is queen high, rainbow. We have a gut shot to the nut straight, 2 overcards, and a backdoor flush draw. Pretty strong holding. And with our strong draws, I elect to continuation bet here. Make it $1.30, about 2/3 pot, and we get a call. Turn gives us even more outs. We are now 1 card from the nut flush. Stack to pot ratio is now less than 2 with 758 left in our opponent's stack. Let's put in a bet that would make a lot of the middling pairs fold in this spot and allow us to get the rest of our stack in when we do hit on this river if our opponent does make a call on our turn bet. So I make it $2 and we do get a fold. It is a small sample size, but we do see that our opponent folds 100% to turn bets, probably only continuing with a queen in this spot, possibly a 10, which really limits the hands that our opponent could have within their range. And if they do make a call with a queen here, we have a ton of outs to improve and put our opponent in a position where they shouldn't be folding any rivers, easily getting the rest of our stack in and doubling up on improved hands. The next hand we're going to take a look at is also at the 10 NL table, also Ace-King playing from the big blind, and once again we get a 3x open from under the gun. Very similar situation to last hand. This time we get a call from the button player, and we're going to be putting in a 3-bet here. Make it $1.30, a $1 raise. We have pretty deep stacks, all of us being over 100 big blinds. We get a call from under the gun and we get a call from the button. There's now $3.95 in the pot, $8.85 left in our effective stack, a little bit more than 2-to-1 pot, a little bit more than 2-to-1 stack to pot ratio, and we flop top pair top kicker. Elect to just check on this fairly dry board. Under the gun checks and the button checks as well. Turn is another ace. Now when we put in a bet, we could possibly see some of the middling pairs make a call. A lot of jacks are going to be making a call here, and many of the aces, and if there are any ace combos left out there, we are most likely going to be ahead of all of those and going to be getting all the chips in the pot here. So I make it a little bit larger than half pot. Probably could have made it a little bit smaller to try to induce some calls. This bet sizing does set us up pretty well for a river jam, but we get folds from both of our opponents and we take this pot down. Now at the 25 NL table, we have Ace-9 playing on the button. Low jack calls, and we elect to just call here. Could definitely argue for putting in an isolation bet here. Probably the suggested play that I would make. Small blind folds and big blind checks. 3 of us see a flop where we hit top pair top kicker. Little bit smaller than half pot size bet from the low jack player. 41 hands on this player, pretty passive so far, but does tend to bet quite a bit of flops over this very small sample size. I like to just make a call here. You could definitely argue for putting in a raise here with this hand, but I don't want to fold out a lot of hands like the exact one that we're against. But in this case, it probably would have been better to get that hand to fold. And now our opponent bets more than pot. Not many hands that the 6 really improves within our opponent's range. 5, 8, or 8 8-10 if those hands would be in this pre-flop limp range. Definitely could be. Or even a 5-4 suited. But our opponent is 100% representing that this 6 improved their hand, which really doesn't make sense to me. With the small flop bet, I think a lot of hands like Jack 10 of spades or any of the other spade hands in our opponent's range would play it this way as well, picking up the spade draw and putting in a large bet sizing. I definitely thought about folding this hand right here though, because there's not a ton of hands that we're up against that we're ahead of besides the flush draw. But I do make a call, and the turn is an even worse card for us, giving us top 2 pair and missing all of the flush draws as well as many of the straight draws that could be out there within our opponent's range. And they bet $2 once again. Interesting bet sizing from our opponent, who showed a lot of strength on the turn but then slows down and bets the same amount on the river. A lot of the flush draws that we would want our opponent to have, we block with the 9 of spades in our hand. And when we put in a raise here, we're probably only going to get called by a lot of the hands that beat us, the straights or the sets that could be out there that are pretty limited from the way that our opponent played it. But I do put in a small value raise here, attempting to get called from the 2 pair hands like 7-6 that would play the turn that way, possibly 9-6 or 9-7. But those hands are once again limited with our 9 in our hand, blocking quite a few of those combinations. So I do believe that this river raise is a mistake. Even though we do improve the top 2 pair on the river, I still think we should probably just be calling this river bet. And of course we get a call. Shows the set of 6s, big time turn card that definitely did connect, but it was hard to read. Betting the flop and then the large turn bet. Interesting hand, definitely one to go through the thought process with, and I think we could have saved $4 or 16 big blinds by just making a call on the river in this situation. Next hand we're going to look at is pocket queens playing from the big blind at the 25 NL. We get a limp from under the gun, 5x bet from under the gun +1, a call in the hijack seat, and we are going to be putting in a 3 bet. We make it 475. Fold from under the gun +1, and a call from the hijack. Hijack has a high VPIP of 33% over a sample size of 306, an aggression factor of 1.1, which is very low. And the flop is king high rainbow. Elect to check, try to induce some bluffs from our opponent, who is pot committed here, but they check back and a 7 of diamonds comes on the turn. I see a little bit higher turn bet percentages and average fold percentages here on the turn, so I'm going to try to induce one more time. Just check, and going to be check calling any bet, but our opponent checks. Another 8 comes on the river. Now let's go for value and get any of those pairs within our opponent's range to make a call here. Make it 450. I could definitely see a larger bet sizing working in this spot as well against a player who folds 38% to rivers. That's a pretty low number, but our opponent has the tendencies to get to rivers with strong hands. That is why they are only folding 38%. But since the run out and the play on this hand went check on both the flop and the turn, we can assume there's a lot of ace highs and a lot of pairs in our opponent's range. I think the 450 bet could make a lot of the ace highs think about calling here, and there's no way that a pair is really ever going to fold to this bet size, and we do get a call. Don't know what they had. And the last hand we are going to take a look at is pocket aces at the 25 NL table, playing from under the gun +1. We open 2-3x, and we get 3 bet from the big blind, who we have 72 hands on, 3 betting almost 15%, very high, but has only done it with premium hands. That is a lot of premium hands over this 72 hand sample size. We put in the 4 bet, and we just get a call. 1660 in the pot pre-flop. We have 2072 left in our stack, a little bit more than 1-to-1 stack to pot ratio, and flop is king high. Two-tone. We have the backdoor nut flush draw as well as the aces over the board. Check from our opponent. I just check on this flop. We have such a good stack to pot ratio that we shouldn't have an issue getting our chips in on the turn or river, and there's not too many cards that really hurt our hand on the turn, so we can afford to give away one here to try to improve our opponent. And we get the 9 of hearts. Our opponent checks once again. Interesting play from them, but we put in a bet here, 788, which is about half pot, and this time our opponent jams in. We are making this call every time, hoping showing that we are not up against pocket nines, and we are up against an ace king. Just have to avoid a king on the river, which happens, and we take down this pot of over 100 big blinds. And winding up our session at 1 cent, we've had a lot of requests lately from viewers asking if they could download or get my HUD set up, and I have added it onto this digital e-commerce site. I will put the link down below in the description. You can purchase for a $2.99 minimum. You can pay what you want, so if you think it has more value, you can pay more if you want to. It'll help support this channel, which I hardly make any money off of. So if you want to pay more, that would be greatly appreciated. So if you do have Hold'em Manager 2 and you want to use the same HUD setup that I have, all you have to do is buy. Go to your HUD settings, import, and select the file that you downloaded, and boom, you have my HUD setup. I would definitely suggest going through here and writing down all the information. Give yourself a little cheat sheet that you can keep in front of you while you're playing, since there is quite a few numbers here and will take a little bit to get used to. I have refined everything and made all of the colors uniform throughout the HUD. Red numbers, of course, are going to be when a player is too tight in a certain situation. Green numbers are too loose. White are within a balanced strategy. So again, if you are interested, I will put this link down in the video description. Also in the video description are links to all the poker products that I use, all of my social media pages, and I have added some links to poker books that I've recently read, as well as ones that I plan on reading shortly. So if you guys want to read along with me, those links are also down here. Hit that like button, subscribe if you are not subscribed yet, leave those comments or questions down below, and I will be back soon with a new video. But until then, I'll see you guys out on the virtual felt.
Run with the feeling of being alive while we're jumping off the porch like mom's not home. Just a couple kids living on our own. Summer nights.